жить в Украине на американской зарплате, это жизнь в шоколаде. Right? Но жить в Америке на украинский менталитет тоже неплохо. Right? But I have to see, because I don't know where it got lost in the generations. Right? If some of you guys were born there or just born here, chances are your parents are from there and came here. Right? And I don't know what's transpired from them to you. So we're going to have to clear some of that up. Right, so that I can figure out where to go, because there is no way I can talk about this topic in 45 minutes and cover it all. Just not going to happen, right? But I am going to go through some things. And the thing that's most important, everything that it leads to is this verse. Right? A good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. Right? If you get this verse, you should be scared. Now, we'll look at a verse and say, only in the Lord Jesus Christ am I saved. Confess with thy mouth the Lord Jesus, and thou shalt be saved. We believe those verses for eternal security. This one says, a good man leaves an inheritance to not his children, to his vnuki, to his grandchildren. We talk about that for a second? How much money do you think you got to save up so that you can make it to past your retirement? Right? I'll tell you, I own a health insurance brokerage firm. I own a health insurance brokerage firm. What that means is I sell health insurance to small businesses, individuals, and retirees. Right? So I'm watching people every single day, multiple times a day, go from I'm working to I'm on Medicare and I want to retire. Right? I have some people that there's no way they're going to make it, and they're trying to get on Medicaid, so Medicaid will pay for their nursing home. Right? I had a guy yesterday, $39,000 a year is his salary. He is a janitor at 64 years old. He's a janitor at Kodak making $39,000 a year. He's like, am I going to be able to retire? He has $1,018,000 in the bank. He makes $39,000 a year, and he has $1,018,000 in the bank. Yeah, you're good, dude. Go home. You're fine. You can quit. You never have to listen to them again. Never touch the garbage can. Right? I also have a guy comes into my office, 59 years old. Right? He's like, I want to retire. I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm like, well, at 59 years old, you can't touch your 401k. You can't touch your IRA. You can't get Social Security. Right? I hope you have a lot of savings, because if you don't have savings, how are you going to make this? He goes, no. I have a pension. I'm like, okay, what's your pension? He goes, $100,000 a year. You're 59 years old and you have a $100,000 a year pension? He's like, yeah. I'm like, what did you do for a living? He goes, I was a pipe fitter. You're a plumber and you have a $100,000 a year pension. He goes, and a 401k and an IRA. Okay. Right? I have people like this happen all the time, that the people that you think they don't have anything, doing pretty well. The people that you think are doing pretty well, they're just, Yep, they're just showing up. You guys know the difference between panti and major, right? One means they got the money from their parents. The other one means they earned it on their own, okay? So we're going to get into that with this. But the point of all of this is this. If we're going to try and be Christian, right, it is our job to leave an inheritance to our children's children. How am I going to make enough money in order to get it to my grandchildren? Well, first I'm going to have to talk to my daughter and make sure that she doesn't spend it by the time it gets to them anyway, right? There's some education involved in this. All right. How are we going to do that? Now, here's my next point. We're going to talk about a good man. Ladies, I am very glad that you're here. I want you to be here. You need to be here in order to hear this. But my tone is not going to be pretty for you. It's going to be for the hard-nosed guys that are sitting around looking at me right now because they got thicker skin than you, right? So we're going to talk about this. Fair enough? There will be something especially for you ladies at the end. I saved something special, so please follow me all the way to the end. All right? Next, about leaving that inheritance to the children's children. Something you need to know. That inheritance, it's not only money. It's not only money. Okay, we're done. It's absolutely about money, right? It is not only about money, but we'll leave that for another time. We're going to talk about some money, right? Because, I don't know if you guys ever heard of this guy or not. In Matthew, he wrote this. The kingdom of God is a man traveling into a far country who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. You guys know the story? The talents, he gave 5, he gave 2, he gave 1, right? Can we start at the beginning, right? We're talking about the kingdom of heaven. Is this something spiritual or non-spiritual? Spiritual. So we're talking about spiritual already, right? And he was a man traveling in a far country. Do the poor people, do they travel to different countries? right? Who called his servant. Do poor people have servants? No. Right? And he delivered them goods. Should I just keep going? Do you think this guy's reasonably wealthy? You know, in your Bible, this is written in red. Jesus Christ says the kingdom of heaven is like a rich guy giving stuff to the poor. You're like, I don't know if that's true. Okay, fine. Right? His Lord answered and said unto him, thou wicked and slothful servant. What's that all about? That's the guy who didn't make money from his money. Jesus Christ says the kingdom of heaven is like a guy who gave stuff to other guys to make money for him, and the guy who didn't make any money was wicked. Okay? Right? So we talk about passive income, getting somebody to make money for you. Let's go on a little bit farther. Thou oughtest, you should, therefore, have put money into the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received mine with usury. Did Jesus Christ just explain that what good men are supposed to do is find a way to make their money make money? But I thought all the good Christian guys were supposed to be poor. Yeah, see, most of you guys are not your heads like that's not really true, right? I actually believed that for a while, right? Again, I was a missionary. How many of you guys know missionaries that are rich ones? Right, just real quickly, influencers in the Bible. Give me some of the biggest influencers of the Bible. Give me a name, any name. Paul. Okay, poor or rich? Why do you think poor? Paul? He was rich. He was a Pharisee. Right? How about Moses? Rich or poor? Rich. Abraham? Rich. Noah? Yeah, that's fair. I don't know that one either. Right? I thought about it. I mean, dude had a whole lot of sheep. He was a head shepherd. He took it from his father-in-law like a good normal Ukrainian. Oh, sorry. Some of those things slip out. I apologize. So what about Joseph? Not Joseph of Arimathea, not Joseph's Mary husband, right? But Joseph, second to Pharaoh. So why is it that all these guys that we read about in the scriptures are the rich guys? Somehow we got sold a bill of goods that the spiritual guys are the poor ones. I don't think that's true, right? Now, rich and rotten versus rich for God, we're going to get into that a little bit later, right, about how that's going to work out, right? But I sincerely believe that Christ, especially in this story, is saying, hey, listen, you guys are supposed to do stuff with this. Oh, and by the way, if you didn't believe me, take therefore the talent from him and give it unto him which had the 10 talents. What happened? Jesus had the guy with the 1 talent who didn't do what he was supposed to do and was wicked. Who did he give it to? The guy who did the best. Maybe if you're working for Christ and you're making the most amount of money, he'll give you more to manage. Right? I'll tell you this. When I understood that I was not supposed to make money, but I was supposed to be the distribution center for God's money, a lot of things different changed. Right? It came into me and I found a way to get it out. We're going to keep going. Right? Now, some of you guys married, some of you guys not married, some of you guys will hopefully be married. Keep trying. When my wife and I, we read books together. We read books on relationships together. Good books, bad books. It doesn't matter if it's a good or a bad book. The thing is, we read the book together, so we have discussion points of stuff to talk about in relationship and finance. Right? Oh, I forgot this part. Sorry. What did he say to the guys who actually made money? Well done. Just saying. Money is a scorecard. My wife and I were reading this book together. You can laugh. He's funny. It's fine. I get it. Right? He wrote this book, Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man. It's hilarious. Right? My wife loves this book. I actually don't like this book very much. Right? She said it explained a lot about how her husband thinks. If she thinks that, I decided to read it. Right? He says in the first paragraph, in the first chapter, right? Men have a scorecard. We think about who we are, what we do, and how much we make. Anybody disagree? Because I parked next to the 3 Audis and the BMW in the parking lot. I was just checking. You get okay. Right? So it is actually a score. It is not the only scorecard, but it is a scorecard. Right? Let's go on to this. That inheritance. How much we need to actually retire on. I want to go a little bit more into that. We're going to talk about the money portion of it. It's important to talk about the money portion of it, but I want to talk about the other portion of it as well. And maybe я эгоист. Maybe I'm just obnoxious, right? And I'm thinking about myself. But you know what I would really like? I'd like to be the guy whose grandkids hear stories about their dad. Well, your dad was the guy who was a doctor and decided to throw it all, move to Ukraine. And he was there during the war. And he did this, and he was in a foxhole. And, you know, I want them to hear those stories. I want them to hear them from their parents. Come on in. I don't bite. You afraid? А? Да, есть. Раз, два, три. Есть 9 там. Заходите, пожалуйста. 20 копеек. I want them to hear the stories. Come on in.
And in the front, actually, best spot.
Yeah.
In the house.
I want my grandchildren to hear about their grandpa. I am 50 years old. My youngest is 2, which means I'll be 70 years old when she graduates. So chance of me meeting my grandkids is slim and none. So I want to be that good guy that they're like, yeah, your grandfather, you know, he was a missionary. He was a businessman. He was a doctor. He did all those things. I want that to happen, right? I want that to happen when they figure out that their life is going to be hard because grandpa made dollars. There was bablo. We will build Znichka. You understand? Right? How? Yeah, if I could just sit down and say, just do these next 10 steps, right? You'll be rich forever. I wish I could do that, right? I'm going to give you the highlights. I live here in Rochester. I will put my phone number up there. You can talk to me. I do this for a living, right? I am not a financial planner. I'm an American businessman, right? I give more to missions every year than my church does, okay? And I'm not poor. I just choose not to drive the BMW. You guys can keep that. You do know what BMW stands for, right? Baptist Missionary Wives, right? All right. So how do we do that? We're talking about a good man, right? A good man. Being a good man, not a great man. That's a whole different topic. Not a normal man, not just a servant, but being a good man is the way to pull this off. So how do you be a good man? Well, the Bible says that the good man, his steps are ordered by the Lord. It's Bible. I didn't make that up. Right, so step 1, everybody hold on, you're not going to like this one. This one hurts the most. Step 1. And the borrower was servant to the lender. Anybody like this verse? I hate this verse. Right, what do you think this verse means? No debt. None. No credit card. No car payment. No mortgage. None. No debt. Right, I think it's even worse than that. Right? Because I try to take this verse seriously. As a missionary, right, I had the choice of going through a missions board. And a missions board gets to say, we're going to send you this much money, we'll take care of this, you get to do this. Right? I was actually in Crimea, right, when they took Crimea over. And I got kicked out because I had an American passport, and Americans can't go to Russia without a visa, so I couldn't be in Crimea. Right? When that was happening, a lot of my friends were missionaries in Odessa. I lived in Odessa for about 6.5 years. They were missionaries in Odessa, and their missions board said, you guys had to come home, right? We're afraid that you're going to get shot or bombed or whatever the case may be, right? I'm independent. I pay myself to be a missionary. No, I've never taken a dime to be a missionary. I've only ever paid myself, right? So you know who told me to go home? Nobody, right? And you know what the best part about that was? When the guys that were having to go home because their mission board told them to, right? They looked at me and said, hey, listen, will you fill in this spot? Will you preach on Sunday? Will you teach this Bible study? Will you do whatever the case may be? I said, absolutely. I sat down with the Ukrainians in Odessa, and they said, how come when everything gets hard, you guys leave? Oof, that didn't weigh heavy on me at all, right? You know why they left? Because they were being obedient to their masters, which they were supposed to do. But I didn't have to have a master. Same thing with guys who work for somebody else. Now, I'm going to get in trouble for this. I will not say that everybody should be an entrepreneur. Everybody should not be an entrepreneur, right? Maybe. You can do this without being, I told you that guy, $39,000 a year as a janitor, right? $1,018,000 in the bank. Anybody else got that? So he did better than the rest of us, right? I'm not saying you have to be an entrepreneur. I'm saying I am an entrepreneur, and that's where our topics are going to go, right? But how many of you guys would like to go on a mission trip? How many of you guys can't go on a mission trip because your boss won't let you? Who are you serving? Okay, maybe you don't have enough money to pay for it. Maybe you can't take that much time off. Maybe your parents won't let you. I don't know. Who's your boss? Oh, you're getting a little bit in over it. What does that say? Thou shalt have no other gods before me. If somebody gets to tell you what to do other than God, right, you are servant to them. You know how to get out of that? Being financially wealthy. How about this? You ever heard a sermon say, you should give your life to the Lord? Like he just got through saying, wonderful. You ask him, I'll do whatever you want me to do, Lord. I just can't because I got to pay off my college loans and my mortgage and my car payment. And you can't give God something that you don't own. And you don't own your own life if you give it to somebody else. I told you my tone was going to be a little bit punchy. Sorry. Moving on. How about this one? I changed this one to make it more sense for America because you guys are Ukrainians living in America. Choose you this day whom you will serve. You guys know this verse? Whether the gods of your fathers that served that were on the other side of the ocean, it doesn't actually say that, I threw the ocean part in, right? Or the gods of America, in whose land ye dwell, told you, right? But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I'll tell you, I had way more freedom living in Ukraine than I do in America. See? Сколько ты уже был? Yeah, see? There's more freedom over there than there was here, right? Maybe it's because everything is cheaper. Again, жизнь в шоколаде. But I'm telling you, I had more freedom there than I have here. How about this one? You guys know this guy? Yep. This guy's awesome, right? Is he 100% right all the time? No. But he's helped more than 10 million people get out of debt. That's more than the rest of us, right? So here's the steps, right? You should read this book, do it, memorize this book, read the new one on legacy. He says you should have $1,000 zapasku, vnichku, right? Just in case. $1,000. You should have no debt, no debt, no debt. You should not have any debt. If I didn't make that any clear, you should not have any debt. He says, except for a mortgage. Okay, we'll let you have the mortgage because that's hard for us to get through at the moment, right? You should have 6 months of your budget. Does anybody here even have a budget? Right. So let's just start by starting a budget, right? Figure out, oh, you know what budget is in Russian? Budget. Like this is not that difficult, right? So have a budget that tells your money where it's going to go. Don't go, well, this week I had to spend more money on this. You should have a budget where your money goes. That's, again, a whole other lesson. It's in the book. He says you have to have your budget, meaning how much you live on per month. This is what you need, your car payment, your schools, whatever the case may be. 6 months of that in your savings account. So if you stopped working today, you can live 6 months on your savings. Anybody got that? Yeah, see? Feels good, doesn't it? Right? Do you guys know, I just got through telling him if you didn't hear it, you guys know the word entrepreneur? Right? I can't say the Russian word. Предприниматель. I can't spit that one out. You guys know entrepreneur, right? Anybody speak French? Je ne parle pas français. Oui, un peu. Un peu. Entrepreneur is French for risk taker. You run your own business, you take risk. Right? You know what's easier to take risk? Kapusta v karmanie jest, right? If you have money, right, it's significantly easier to take a risk because you don't fall that far. That's 6 months on the budget. You can walk into your boss and say, take this job and shove it, right? And find another job in the next 6 months. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're like, oh, please, please, I'll do whatever you tell me. Who are you serving to? Okay? Then after you have $1,000, after you have no debt, after you have 6 months saved up, then you can start putting 15% of your retirement. Let's just talk about that for a second. Right? That seems like a really large number. If you're making $100,000 a year salary, W-2, right? Good old FICA is stealing from you about 30% every year. So that's $100,000. That's 30 grand gone, right? Now you're giving him another 15. So 45% of your income, right, is taxes and retirement. It is significantly easier to hide that money if you are self-employed than if you're W-2. We have this thing called a wage hit in the wonderful world of health insurance. Every time you get a paycheck, they take FICA from you and they send it to the government. So the government can reverse engineer how much you made so you can't hide anything. They know, right? They have to beg, hope, and plead that I tell them the truth by the time the year is over and how much it is that I made, right? I believe wholeheartedly that it is our biblical responsibility because of our Jewish father to skirt every tax law that we possibly can to not give them the money. Now, look, here's the deal. I tell them this. Here's the line right here. right? My CPA is Jewish. And I told him, I will put my toes right on that illegal line. I'm not stepping over. I don't look good in stripes, right? I'm round. They make you look fatter than you already are, right? But I am not stepping over into illegal, but I'm going to kiss him right there, nice and close. How do you do those things, right? You got to figure out the rules. This is how it goes. Perfect example, some of you guys, I'll kind of share. Yesterday I was talking to, and for you guys, I'm going to take another shot at you. I'm sorry. I was talking to the mother of a Ukrainian guy who's 26 years old. If your mother needs to call me when you're 26, grow up, right? But anyway, his mother calls me up and says, he's making $46,000 a year and he won't get health insurance. Can you help him? In the great state of New York, at $37,650, that's a hard number, $37,650. If you make that or less, your health insurance is free. Right? If you make $37,651, now you have to pay $50 a month for health insurance and you have a $3,800 deductible for $1. Put the dollar in an IRA, you're back to getting free health insurance. Right? Now I look at this kid, I'm like, are you willing to put $9,000 into an IRA? No, I need that money. Still not. That's Russian for idiot. No, that's Italian for idiot, sorry. Or tormes. On tormes. Let's do that. Right? On yesharupayet. So what I had to tell him was this. This is what you got to do. Kak po-ukrainsky. This would get me in trouble if I had to say this. Do you know what happens if you're making $47,000 and you don't get health insurance? Nothing. But you know what happens if you break your leg or you cut yourself and you go in and now you can't go to work because you're out of work because you hurt yourself? Now you don't make $46,000 anymore. You make $39,000 and the health insurance starts at the beginning of the first month. That's how you get around it. What are you saying? I'm saying that we have a responsibility to do these rules. But zakonia, what I don't like, again, looking around the room, Ukrainian men, is that I have helped more than my fair share of Ukrainian guys who started a business, forgot that they actually had to pay taxes, thought that that was all of their money, got all the way to the year end, and then the government said, you owe us $56,000 in taxes. He says, I don't have it. Declares bankruptcy, starts the same business in his brother's name. No, that's not right. They'll catch you eventually. We can touch the line, but we don't cross over, okay? Still getting through. Read about Dave Ramsey. You got to pay for your kids' college. Can we talk about kids' college for a moment? Just a second, maybe 3 minutes. I have 5 college diplomas. 5. And I don't use any of them. That made perfect sense, right? Now, one of them is being a doctor. Okay, that one I had to go to college for. Like, they're not going to let me cut up people at my house to figure out how to do surgeries. That's just not going to work, right? Some of the other ones are stupid. Some of the other ones are me being a pastor, and actually it helps to have that little thing after your line that says, yes, I did go to seminary. You don't have to, right? So my son, who is 15 years old, hates school. Hates school. Anybody else agree? Guys, we love sitting there and listening to the teacher ramble on about nothing. I'm sorry if I make this sound like a class. Hopefully I'm a little bit funny, right? He hates school, so he just isn't going to do it. And I can't make him do it because he's Ukrainian, and like it's hard to do that. I need to get a good babushka at home to, anyway. I can't make him do it, right? So then we started talking. I'm like, listen, if this isn't going to work, how about this? Then that guy I told you about, right, the pipe fitter who has $100,000 a year, right? I said, listen, take my son to work with you, please. So he took him for 3 days. So he went to go. He's at the guy's place. He goes, okay, listen, I don't want to be a pipe fitter, right? But I don't mind the work that's there. How about being an electrician? Okay. So one of my guys, this is totally God. One of my clients, his name is Brandon LaBarbera. My name is LaBarbera. This guy's not even related to me. Don't know how that happened. He's an electrician who happens to go to Northridge Church. I said, will you please take my son and make him your assistant? Make him a wire nut runner. I don't care. Don't even pay him. Take him all summer long. Don't pay him. Just make him work for you. I want to see if this is going to work out. He takes him for 3 weeks, says, this kid's a good worker, and starts to pay him $16 an hour, right? So he works from 8 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon for $16 an hour. Then he gets an hour break, and from 4 in the afternoon until midnight, he works at, do you guys know Orbakers? Do you guys know what that is? Yes. It's a cheeseburger restaurant in Ontario that doesn't have air conditioning, right? 104. On 104, right? So he's at like 102 degrees in the back, 15 years old. You can't touch food. You can't do anything. You get to wash dishes, mop the floors, take out the garbage cans, all the stuff that everybody just wants to do, right? That's what you can do at 15 years old. At 15 years old, 102 degrees in the temperature, which job do you think you like better? Electrician, right? Or working at Orbaker's, right? But he's 15 years old working from 8 in the morning until 7 o'clock at night, right? Saving for a car because dad won't buy him one, right? So what did we teach him? He decided he's going to be homeschooled. So now he still works from 8 till 3 for the electrician at 16 years old, right? And then from 3 until 6, 7 at night, he does his homework by himself, homeschool. Why? Because I'm trying to get him ahead, right? He doesn't know he already has $200,000 in the bank that I've been saving for him. He doesn't know. I'm not going to tell him. Be a nice surprise someday, right? Why? Because when he was born, I put $1,000 away and I put $100 away every single month, right, for the rest of his life until he gets to a place where he's going to make a decision. And I go, surprise, boom. Because part of this inheritance is me teaching him how to use it, not just giving him the money. Make sense? Again, keep going. Step 2, right, because the first one was the fact that we got to have no other God. Figure you got to get out of debt and get going. Step 2, a good man shall be satisfied from himself. This is where I think I can be wrong. You guys can disagree with me. I'm not always right. Just don't ask my wife. Satisfied from himself. I think it talks a little bit about entrepreneurship. I think. It doesn't have to be. I will tell you this, that satisfied from himself doesn't mean that you always just pay for you, right? I think it has something to do with contentment. This is the one that I struggle with. I hate it. I want to be able to buy what it is I want to be able to buy. I make enough money. I can go out and get what I want. This also means that I am not going to be mama na synochik. I'm not a mama's boy. I stand up on I paid off my dad's house. That's how that's supposed to work. Not papa, može mi dingi pожалуйста. Okay? No loans. It also means that I have to look at myself and fight myself. Maybe you guys aren't like this. I have never really I had 2 BMW X5s. I don't really want one anymore. What I would really like is an F250 Platinum. Really, really bad. $88,000, right, that I have, that I can go buy. It's sitting in Florida a lot. I actually went to go visit it last week. I drove to Florida, went and looked at it, touched it, prayed over it, right? I'm hoping that the Lord allows me to go and buy it. I have the money for it. Is it the right thing to do? I don't know, right? It doesn't mean that I can't do it. It means, am I supposed to, right? Here's the thing. In a family, right, because I know this is Ukraine, we have this little thing, right? Who's the head of the family?
Father.
Right? And the mother is the neck, right? That's bad. We all know Mama Shea, right? She turns daddy's head, right? It sounds nice. It's really funny. It shouldn't be that way, right? Let me talk to you about this. If my wife looks at me and says, listen, I really want to remodel the kitchen, I can say, no, we don't have the money for that right now. If my daughter says, I really, really, really want to go get that Gucci purse, I can say, no, we're not doing that right now, right? Who tells me no? Right? So either he and I have to have a good relationship, right? Or I got to be able to tell myself no. And if we can't do that, the family's going to tank. So he got to be able to be satisfied in himself. This guy helps out a lot. If you haven't read this book, you should. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Really, really, really good book. Love what it is he does, how he changes children, how he explained how your money should make money. I don't like, you should not do what he talks about with houses. That worked when he wrote the book 30 years ago. It doesn't work anymore, right? Can you make it work? Sure, but it's really, really risky. If you don't know, read the book. He'll get to the end. But up to chapter 15, really, really good. Great book. You should do what he said. Small thing. He had a rich dad and a poor dad. His poor dad was his biological dad. His rich dad was his neighbor, was his friend's dad, right? And his friend's dad didn't even graduate 10th grade, right? And is a multimillionaire, the richest guy in Hawaii. His biological dad was a professor with a doctorate degree, right? Could never actually pay his bills, right? And the fun part about it is when they get to the magazine. When you get to the comic book portion of it, That is the creme de la creme. He was working for his dad for 10 cents an hour. Again, this was 30 years ago. For 10 cents an hour, which was actually against the law. And his dad said, okay, are you done complaining the fact that you're going to be working for money? Are you done working for money? All right. He's like, yeah. He goes, good. Now I'm not going to pay you anything, but you still have to work for the 3 hours. He's like, whoa, what? I just wanted to get the 10 cents so I could buy a comic book. Can you imagine getting a comic book for 10 cents? I told you, it was a long time ago. Like, please, let me buy, I just want to get a comic book. So he's working at his dad's store, and his dad says, or they were actually throwing out the comic books. Can you imagine? The poor guy's sweeping up the floor, taking out the garbage. The thing that he wants to buy, he just wants in the garbage can. He's like, I can just take it out of the garbage can, right? And he went to the guy and says, listen, can I have those if you're throwing them away? He goes, do you work for the store? Yes. If you work for the store, you can have them. You just can't sell them, okay? In typical Ukrainian style, he started a library and he charged people 10 cents to come and read it for an hour. Now that kid wasn't making 10 cents an hour, he's making $9 a day. Not bad, right? And he goes through a lot of ways to do that in this book. I'm just saying the step one was the borrower servant to the lender. You got to get out of debt. Step two is understanding that you got to be satisfied within yourself. I'm going to go on a little bit farther, right? A good man, because we're talking about being able to do this, being able to give inheritance to your children's children, right, is being a good man. And a good man obtained the favor of the Lord. But a man of wicked devices, he will condemn. I believe this. You're going to look at this going, maybe I don't really know what he's talking about, right? How about this? Do you guys believe that Jesus Christ wants us to help out the widows? How about the poor?
Yes.
How about the oppressed? What about the fatherless or the orphans? I own a health insurance company that gives health insurance for free to widows, to orphans, to the fatherless. You're like, well, no, it wasn't. Do you think in God's green earth I decided I want to be a health insurance agent? Do you think that was a decision I made on my own? Ooh, this sounds like fun. I want to be a salesman and get rejected all day long. I wanted to do something that God wanted to do anyway and expected him to help me do what he wanted to do. If you put your business on the line, I was talking to one of the other guys. I remember the day when I got to look at one of the guys who was a potential client, and I got to look him in the face and say, I don't want you to be my client. You would take too much time and too much effort for me to take care of. I will help you find someone else. Do you know how freeing that feels? Иди гуляй, пожалуйста. Right? Why? Because what was the purpose of my business wasn't for me to make money. The purpose was it for me to get favor of the Lord. And the favor that I wanted was doing what he wanted me to do. I help people. Right? If I were to pull it up right now, and I can, right, on New York State, some of you guys probably know the New York State Exchange, right? Health insurance. Right now, as of today, I'll pull it up if you want to show it to you. I have 1,417 clients on the New York State Exchange. We get paid $25 a person on the exchange, right? Some of you guys are getting a calculator right now, like how much does he make, right? If they have a premium, I get paid $25 a month. If it's free, I get paid nothing, and I did my work for free. As of last night, I checked before I came, 1,417 clients I have, I get paid for just over 500, which means 2/3 I do for free. Those are the poor people. Those are the single moms. Those are the kids that don't have a dad to help them out. So I'm helping out the fatherless, the poor, the widows, and the oppressed. And God says, I'll back you up. I'll send you the ones who do pay, right, so you can take care of the ones who don't. That's what I think that means. I obtained favor of the Lord because I did what he wanted me to do. What about giving out the gospel? Right? Some of you heard, I don't have time to tell the story at the moment, right? When the war started, I went back over to Ukraine, and I had never raised funds before. If you guys have ever heard, I've never raised money. I went to Ukraine on my own, right? In the 4.5 months would be what? 4, 16, 17, 18 weeks. In 18 weeks of me being in Ukraine, while I was in Ukraine, people in America gave me $147,000 to help out Ukrainians. And I came back without one penny. I wasn't even here to raise it. How do you figure that happened? He said, LaBarbera, he's dumb enough. If I give him the money, he'll let it go through. So it comes in, goes out. I obtain favor of the Lord. Okay? What are you saying? I'm just saying the Bible actually says a good man. He didn't even see a great man yet. He said a good man obtains favor of the Lord. Let's keep going, because I'm sure I'm going to run out of time. Step 3. We talked a little bit about this. Character. This one is the hardest one. and I'm going to talk to the guys a little bit. We have a rule in my house. My daughter can stay with me, right, until she is married, until one of you guys has enough courage to come ask me, probably 3 or 4 times, right? You will not get my daughter. My son is out at 19. Not because I don't love him, because he needs to go out, make a mess, figure out how to pay his bills, right? Understand that we don't want to have a sink full of dishes, right? Do you guys know what an RA is? Resident advisor. If you go to college, the students who's in charge of the dorm, that was me, right? And for whatever reason, I was in charge of the basketball players' dorm. I'm 5'9" and white. Like, how am I supposed? That's a whole different topic, right? Right. So at the guys' dorm, the basketball players' dorm, we had a sink with dishes like this. Guys would take the dish, wash it, eat off it, and put it back in the dirty pile. Like, you can't like flip that around and just grab the clean one, eat it, and wash it and put it back. The guy just, unless it smells, tell me you guys haven't picked up your clothes and smelled it and see if you can put it back on or not. You guys won't admit to it because there's girls in the room. I got it, it's fine, right? Guys have to get out and figure that out. Ladies, would you want a guy who's never paid his bills and can't make enough money? I hope not, right? He shouldn't need you. He should want you. Get the difference, right? So I'm trying to get this guy out, right, to figure it out on his own. Character. For God giveth to the man that is good. Can we say to the man that is good, he means a good man, right? Right? For God giveth to the man that is good in his sight wisdom, knowledge, and joy. But to the sinner he giveth travail, to gather and to heap up that he may give to him that is good before God. We have to work on our character and how to go about doing those things. There's a guy that I know that Dave Ramsey was talking about, so I guess I don't know him. I know him through Dave Ramsey. He's worth $2.2 billion, with a B, milliard, right? He drives a $130,000 Mercedes. He might be Ukrainian. All you guys like the Mercedes, right? I don't understand. It's fine. He drives a $130,000 Mercedes, and he told Dave Ramsey, "I'm sorry. I know it's an expensive car." Dave's like, 10% of $2.2 billion. You're fine. It's fine. You can drive a $130,000 car, and nobody should ever complain. You made enough money, right? Because the guy was afraid of this verse. Proverbs 10:22, the blessing of the Lord maketh rich, and addeth no sorrow with it. Do you remember, there was a guy in the Bible, I forget what his name was, maybe you'll remember. There was a guy that when something was done nice, he said, we should have taken that and we should have sold it and given the money to the poor. Who was that? Judah. Yeah. So Judas is the guy that says you should have taken your expensive thing and sold it to give to the poor. Not the Christian guy, and not Jesus Christ. So anybody who comes up to you and says, oh, that's an expensive car, you shouldn't have that. Remember who they're akin to. Okay? Moving on a little bit farther. A good man showeth favor and lendeth, and he will guide his affairs with discretion. Right? This goes into knowing what it is you have to do, where to put your money. If you remember my 2 illustrations when we started, the guy, the $39,000 guy with $1 million and $18,000, it was important to him to tell me about the $18,000. I'm like, dude, just round to $1 million, you're fine. Right? But that $18,000 counted for him. Right? And then the other guy who's got $100,000 a year for the rest of his life, his pension, which one's in the better situation? So if we remember how our verse started, right, that we're supposed to leave an inheritance to our children's children, that guy gets $100,000 for the rest of his life. If he's 59 years old, maybe he lives to 80, so he gets $100,000 for the next 20 years. The guy with $1 million, if you don't know how this works, if he only takes 5%, right now the S&P standard, you guys know the whole like mutual funds, stocks, bonds, right? You get that, right? Right now it's hovering around 11.2 for the last 100 years. Sometimes at 2%, sometimes at 20%, but for the last 100 years, right, a slow growth mutual fund is riding at 11.2%. So if you have $1 million and you take 5% out, that's $200,000 a year. He's living off $200,000 a year. The other 5%, 11.2%, the other 5% replaces the $200,000 you just took out. So for вечности, for eternity, he can take $200,000 a year. You know what happens when he dies? That $200,000 a year goes to his kids. And if they only take $200,000 a year and they die, you know what goes to his grandkids? $200,000 a year and to his. Which one was better? The janitor at $39,000 than the guy who's making $100,000 a year on a pension. I have doctors who their Social Security, because they're over 65, is $5,000 a month. $5,000 a month, still not enough. The guy who made the million was it. Do you know that if you can get to, this is my goal, and I'm almost there, right? If you can get to $500,000 in the bank, savings, S&P, slow growth fund, when you're 40 years old, right? Your grandkids will have $13 million. That's how that works. Those are nice numbers. Again, I can't do all that stuff for you right now. What I'm saying is there is wisdom, there is knowledge, there is joy, and you have to know how to guide your affairs right before you get into this stuff. Again, I know I don't have a whole lot of time. We're still talking about character. A good man, some would even dare to die. If there came, it should never come down to this, but if there came a choice between one guy dying and the other guy dying, right? And who would you, how do I say this? Who do you want to die, this guy or the other guy? Right? You have to kind of make that decision. God's kind of saying, hey, listen, you should make your life worth it where we don't want to see you go, right? Claim it, don't claim it, don't like it. Steve Jobs, I wish he'd come back, right? Apple is crap. Steve Jobs did such an awesome job making Apple where they're just like kind of hovering around with that, right? I wish he was back and we could have gotten rid of Tim Cook, right? I'm just saying in order to be a good man, we have to do these things. And I want my children, my children's children to know that it was bad that I went. All right, I'm getting to the end, right? This is we're getting to the fun. How about this one? Step 4, and this is my last step, I promise, because I got 10 more minutes. To the children's children. Her husband is known in the gates when he sitteth among the elders of the land. I'm going to say that's a good guy. You say, what are you talking about? Anybody know where this is from? Proverbs 31. What's Proverbs 31 about?
Wisdom. Oh, I mean female.
Who can find the virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. Marrying the right woman at the right time is part of how do you give this inheritance, right? Why? Here we go. I made this specially for the American Ukrainians in here. I'm just reading down Proverbs 31. She seeketh Gucci and Louis Vuitton, and worketh willingly with her hands. She is like the merchant ship. She bringeth her food from afar. Probably take out. She riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth grechka to her household, and a portion to her maidens. Right? She considereth a field and buyeth it, usually without telling her husband. Right? With the fruits of her hands, she planteth a garden with cucumbers and tomatoes. Grechisi salad. Right? She giveth her loins, she girdeth her loins with strength, and strengtheneth her arms, probably from carrying sacks of potatoes. She perceiveth that her merchandise is good. Her candle, cell phone, goeth not out by night. My wife is on phone all night long. I don't know how that happens. She layeth her hands to the spindle, and her hands take hold of the lopatka and smack my kids on the polpa. She stretches out her hands to the poor. Yea, she reaches forth her hands to the needy. She is not afraid for the snow of her household, because for her all her household are clothed like kapusta. Like, have you ever seen how the Ukrainian grandmas wrap their kids? I think you can throw them at the 5th floor window. They're just going to bounce, right? Right? She maketh herself coverings of, shuba, right? And her clothing is Chanel and Zara. Her husband is known in the gates when he sitteth among the elders of the land. If you were in Ukraine, I'd say plain shakmati. She maketh fine linen and selleth it, probably on Facebook Marketplace, right? And delivereth her girdles unto the merchant. Prada and Lululemon are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. She openeth her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. She's not a grandma yet, remember. She looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not bread or carbohydrates. Her children arise up and call her blessed, and her husband also, and he praiseth her. My daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest them all. Favor is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, and that shall be praised. All right, now, I did this to make fun. I hope you guys got a kick out of it. I could hear you in the background. But the easiest way for a good man to not leave an inheritance to his children's children is to grab the wrong woman at the wrong time and screw it all up. Now, am I saying she's the one that screws it up? No, I'm not. I'm not saying that at all, right? Did you see the woman that's on here? That woman is fierce, and my wife is just like her, right? She doesn't need me. She can make I just drove from here to Florida to sell 3 cats, right? Yeah, cats, because you can't get on a plane with 3 cats. They won't let you, right? Do you know what the ticket from Rochester to Orlando cost? $50. It's $125 a cat, but $50 for me. Okay? Why did I do it? Because some idiot in Florida decided to spend $2,400 on a kitten, and I had 3 of them. That's $8,000. Cash. That no one in the government knows about. My wife had 18 of them this winter. 18 times 2,000 is what? 30. Yeah, it's a lot of money, right? Right? That she, again, if we had time and I would do it, I would tell you, because this is what's going to happen. Let's say a guy gets a good job, he's making $50,000 a year, and he's got a girlfriend and she's making like $36,000 a year, right? And dude's living off 50, he's doing a horrible job, but he's trying, right? She's living at home making $36,000 a year, right? They get married. Woohoo! $86,000 a year. Stop, right? You're going to get used to the $86,000. You're going to be living great on $86,000. This is awesome. You were doing it. You almost doubled your income. And then she does what women do when they're married and they get pregnant and they come home and you got used to 86 and now you got to drop down to 50? Could you make 50, make 36, get together, make 86, but take that 36 and put it away and put it away and put it away and still live on 50? And when she gets pregnant, you're still living on 50, but you got a whole lot of money in the bank. Smart women do that. Smart women know how to do the coupons. They know how to work. I'm not saying they can't. Right? Did you see what this woman can do? She's fierce and she knows what's going on and she's stylish. You guys ever meet my daughter? My wife, when we moved to America, I took her to Fifth Avenue. Had no idea what it was. Emily, I am never ever taking to Fifth Avenue because she knows what all of those stores mean and we don't have that much money for her purse. Right? Well, the whole point was, way back to the very beginning, a good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children. If this is legit, if you're trying to leave an inheritance to your children's children, right, it isn't how much money you take. It isn't what kind of character you have to be able to put it away. It is on getting good use and good guidance. It is on not having debt and marrying the right woman who's going to go through with this. Because if one is going to spend and the other one's not, or the other one, if you guys don't agree on what you're going to try and do, whatever that might be, right, you're not going to get anywhere. All of these things are just being a good man. The other men we talked about, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, right? These were great men. I want to be like them, so good man should be down here. All right. 4 minutes left. Any questions for me before I get out? Hit me.
You said debt is bad. What if you're using debt to make money?
That is what's his name there? Oh, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Right? So if you read, and it has been done, it can be done. I don't want to be among them because I don't think that's the biblical way to do it. The Bible says not to be in debt. Using something the Bible told me not to do in order to get it doesn't seem like a wise thing to do, right? But let's say I took out a mortgage. My house is a perfect example, right? So I own a house in Marion, New York. Yes, we do have electricity, right? I own a house in Marion, New York. I own that house on 44 acres. Right? We do not use all 44 acres. I got it so that I can make the La Barbara compound and so I can sell off pieces, right? So what's going to happen is I'm building a log cabin because I always wanted to live in a log cabin, right? And I'm building it on the bottom. You guys ever see the driveway where you can't see the house in the back? I wanted to be that guy. I just always wanted to be that guy, right? So I bought enough property where I can build my log cabin on the back. When I build my log cabin on the back, somebody else is going to be renting my house. When they're renting my house, they're paying my mortgage, right? That's how this works. But now I'm using debt, right, to get what it is that I want. What if I paid off my house and then rented it and I used that money to build the house? You can do the same thing. It just takes a little bit longer. And that's where character and patience and all of those crappy things that we don't really want to do in the scriptures make us do. Because you know what? I'll tell you, you know what my mortgage rate is? 2.3%. Yeah, because right now it's like 6-7%. Right? Like I knew when to get in and I am never going to use that. So in that case, if I were to take out a loan in order to build my log cabin at 7%, that would be foolish, right? It's actually better for me to keep my 2.3% loan, right? And then spend my money to build a house, right? There are instances where there's wisdom in it, but again, if we think we're trying to be a good man or trying to get favor from the Lord, using something he told us not to use would be bad. That's my answer to that one, but I understand the question, and it can be done. Anything else? No? Yes. Yeah.
So that's kind of a more particular case in that situation. But if you're starting something up and you don't have finances, is it better to save up the money and putting into it than try to get a loan?
Yeah. It's hard, but yeah. I wish it wasn't that way. I bought a tractor, and I was going to rent the tractor out in order to have them pay for my tractor, right? You know what happened when COVID happened, and then we couldn't have enough people finding other stuff. Now I'm stuck with it, right? Because you never know what's going to come down the path. It's just easier to not do that, but unfortunately, it takes patience. There's a gentleman in here that was asking me the question earlier. Right? If you guys are single and you're working a W-2 job, meaning you're an employee, not an entrepreneur, right? You should have a side hustle, right? Ladies, please, again, don't be angry. I can see the ladies in the back row like, don't throw anything when this is all done. Please, I'm fragile, I'm sensitive. Belly pushistis, this, matri, right? When you are a single guy and you can work from 7 in the morning until 9 o'clock at night and you don't come home and your wife's like, where you been all day? It's so much easier, right? I believe this, and it changed my life. It really changed my life because I ran my house like I ran a business. My wife was my manager and she was managing my home for me. That doesn't work very good. Right? Because you know what happens if she's a bad manager? You fire her and you get a new one. Well, that doesn't work in Christianity, right? But what if I said, it's my job. I'm the head of the house. It's my job to cook my kids dinner. But my wife is helping me out by doing it. Ooh, that changes the thought, right? If I'm running my business, my business is basically on a computer. I can do my business from anywhere in the world as long as I have a computer and a cell phone that works. So I will spend more money to get me the computer that I need in order to do my work. Right? If my wife's job, I'm not saying a woman's job is just to be in the kitchen. I'm not saying that. It's just an illustration. Right? If my wife is helping me by cooking in the kitchen, she had better have the stove and the stuff that she wants, not getting the crap because we don't have the money for that. If this was my business, this is what I would do. Right? If we start looking at our homes like that, we start looking like that idea like that, right? Now, if it is my responsibility to cook my kids' dinner, to help my kids with their schooling, and to do their homework, right? I should actually be home after the workday is over and spend some time with my kids, right? They're mine, and I'm bringing them up. I'm not just paying my wife to do it for me. That be the case, when I'm single, I'm working morning till evening to get that money away, right? Ladies, wouldn't you like to marry a guy who already has a house and a car that's already paid for and is ready for you and wants you rather than coming and say, I just need the extra income? But when you're married, that time of working morning to evening has to stop, and you got to spend some time with your family. I love calling up my assistant when my feet are in the sand, right? I do it all the time. It is fun. My wife is a beach person. I'm not. I'm a mountains person. Please send me to Montana, right? But during my busy season, which is basically September to December, it's open enrollment. I have to be doing that. The rest of the year I can be away, right? My wife is basically a single mom for about 9 weeks. Right? If my wife is a single mom for 9 weeks, she gets umbrella drinks when this is all over, someplace with white sand and a beach. Right? No, I don't like it there. She just got through running the business, my home, for 9 weeks. Right? But when I get to call my assistant, because I have passive income that I don't have to make because I don't work for money, money works for me, and I'm sitting there with my Virgin umbrella drink going, hey, how many phone calls did you take today? I'll be back in a week. It is a wonderful thing. And I can play in the same with my kids, and I can love on my wife because a good man leaveth inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. Anybody else? Done? Was it helpful or was it funny? Both? All right. All right. I will pray. You guys can be done and we can head out over there. Father God, thank you for these people that were willing to share their time and to come in the room. Lord, I hope that I was funny in the way to get them to remember it. But God, I hope that your verses, your word, is what touched them. Lord, there are lots of get rich quick schemes. But God, they don't stay. Please help them. Please help them to go through the character that it takes, Lord, in order to build the wealth the way that you would want it to be so we know what we're supposed to give away. Lord, so we can build the wealth in order to help the poor, to help the fatherless, to help the widows, to help those people that don't have the gospel and not just get a boat or go on vacations. God, help them to be rich. Help use them as distribution centers for your wealth to get your work done in the greater Rochester area and across the world. I love you. Please, please don't stop working on me. I know that I'm stubborn, but please keep working on me so I can be better for you. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, guys. Oh, I forgot. Это Украине.